At Telstra, you can keep the whole family entertained with 1 month of Foxtel Now on us. With the best movies, dramas, kids shows and documentaries, there's something for everyone to stream on the family TV or on your phone for some me time. Visit telstra.com/Foxtel Now. Exclusive to Telstra Consumer Postpaid customers. Offer ends June 30, 2020. For new or returning Foxtel Now customers, must sign up via Telstra. Requires internet and compatible device. Roll on to Essentials Pack $25.
For those who don't already know us, we are Tiny Travel Too. We are... Guys, for those who don't already know us, we are Tiny Travel Too. We are 4 adults and 2 little girls who have been travelling the world full time since November 2019.
Shift you. And we're on, guys.
Hi guys!
How are you all?
Welcome to our first live. How nerve-wracking.
I know, right? We're anxious as ever. I've been pacing. I'm sure if you've seen some of the lead up to it, I've been pacing around the room just watching the minutes tick by, right?
Yeah. So for all of you that don't already know us, our intro would have told you a little bit about us, but I'm Amy and this is Luke. And we are just part of Tiny Travel Too. We are actually...
Obviously, the family's 6 people deep.
Yeah, so 4 adults and 2 children. Sophie is my daughter and Millie is Luke's daughter.
I mean, if you've watched the clips, you can tell the difference between the 2 of them.
Yes, very different. But we make up Tiny Travel Too, and we're a family that in the start of 2019 made a dramatic decision to sell everything and start traveling the world. So we did that. We spent about 9 months selling everything, quitting our jobs.
Trust me, it felt like a lot longer than 9 months, especially when you're counting down the days to resign or, finish up at work, which, I mean, some of the girls I work with here in Tweed Heads would probably attest to it, got a bit long-winded towards the end.
Yeah, so we sold everything, and in November of 2019, we took our first flight from the Gold Coast of Australia we went to Vietnam.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know, shameless plug maybe, not that they're really supporting us, but we flew AirAsia out of the Gold Coast via Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and into Hanoi, wasn't it? We started to the northern end of Vietnam. And we obviously fell in love with Vietnam, as you could probably tell. Most of our footage is from Vietnam. But that was how it all started, and that trip was really good. From there, it kind of all just, I don't know, it kind of run itself. We got carried away and we'd had a blast.
Yeah, so we were traveling full-time, and our plan was initially to travel full-time for 18 months to 2 years internationally, and then come back to Australia and kind of see where everything led to after that. But obviously, because of the current global situation that's happening right now, we are back at home. For anyone that doesn't already know, we're back at home, and everything's kind of been put on hold. So yeah, we thought today in our first live, that we would discuss a little bit about what our plans were going to be, the things that we had booked, how we got around, that kind of thing. And then moving on to you guys kind of helping us decide what we're going to do from now, because we still have that travel bug, but obviously that's going to look very, very different in the future. So we want to figure out...
Actually, before we get carried away, sorry, I did intend on calling the girls out so they could say hello. It's 10 a.m. here at home in Australia. So they're here. They've just been really well behaved and watching some stuff on the television. So I'll get them to come out. Hey, girls, come here.
Slowly.
Sophie, Millie, come on. Come and say hello to everyone. So this is Millie. You say hi, baby.
Hi.
Obviously my daughter, as you can see.
Hi.
Yes, and this is Sophie. She's my daughter.
This is my mom.
Say hi, everyone's saying hello.
Hi. My dad just comments, see?
Yeah, I
Oh,
see.
did he?
Yeah.
You say hi to Hita, say obrigado.
Hi, obrigada.
So for anyone that doesn't already know, my husband is Brazilian. Sophie is obviously half Brazilian. So we do have a lot of family located in Brazil. And yeah, that's who we're saying hello to.
And we've also got...
Okay, so that's them. Thank God they're like occupied with something else.
Yeah, so we thought that we'd start our discussion on where we last left you guys. So for anyone that has been... Sorry,
Hi,
Auntie
Gabby.
Gabby.
I'm not as cute as Sophie, but hello.
So for anyone that has been following along with us, and if you haven't yet, go back and watch all of our videos because it has been such a great adventure so far. But we left off in last left you flying home from Greece. So
yeah, so if you followed all of our videos, as Amylee just said, you'll see that it's a little bit broken up, the timeline, but our return back sort of happened several weeks ago. It's been 2 months for us in actual time, but as far as posting it, it was I think maybe 3 weeks ago, max 4 weeks ago that we posted that one up, and you guys saw our journey back from Greece, which was obviously a bit like a Band-Aid being torn off.
Yeah, so our initial plan obviously was to spend 48 days in Greece in total, staying in Athens. And then we had planned on traveling through Eastern Europe and heading up to finish our European leg in France, which was my goal the entire time. So our plan was we were going to do Hungary and Poland and Bulgaria, the Netherlands, all of those kind of places, head up that way slowly, end up in Paris for a couple of days, and then we were going to fly over to
North
Canada.
America,
Yeah,
so
which
Canada.
is where my sister lives in Canada, spend some time there, and then buy an RV and travel America for 6 months. So we had gone to the extent that we all have our visas for America.
So each one of us has the visa appropriate for that, which is valid for 5 years. So we might still get to access that, but for now there are just a piece of paper sitting in our passports.
Yes, we do need to go to Morocco. I had this conversation the other day, and it definitely is on our list to get to Morocco.
Before we selected Greece, we were going to stay in Portugal, and it was something that I kept talking about, is catching the ferry down
going
to
into
Morocco and visiting you guys down there. Unfortunately, at first it was fortunate because then we went and did Greece and the islands instead, but unfortunately we obviously didn't manage to squeeze it in yet. So the plan is to do it all again sometime in the future. It's not over yet. But look at the current climate at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows when I'm going to be able to fly again?
Yeah.
Internationally, that is.
So in the last 2 weeks of us being in Athens, our plan changed from doing that complete trip to it kind of dwindled down to it only being Hungary for Katie's birthday, which was the 19th of March. And then we were going to come back to Athens and then go to Paris to do what I really wanted to do, and then move over to Canada. And we were doing that because we wanted to avoid traveling as much as we could, but also not missing out on the things that we really wanted to do while we were in Europe. But it ended up being, a couple of days after we had made that decision and booked all of that into place, it changed to us just being like, we need to get out of here. We need to go somewhere where we feel safer, where it's a little bit more stable.
Yeah, well, look, for us, it was kind of a lot of things, but in Greece, it felt safe. It felt fine. But it just didn't feel a full secure location, being that the language was second to us, the culture was second to us. I
think it was a big thing also that we only had, as I said, the 48 nights in Athens, and we had used a portion of that. So we were a little bit hesitant about if we were stuck there for a long period of time, would we still be able to stay in that accommodation, and how difficult it would be for us to get accommodation past that. So our plan changed to, we would fly to Canada and we would locate ourselves with my sister in the Okanagan of Canada, and we would kind of lay low there. All of us have spent a lot of time in Canada, so we were really familiar with the area, and we kind of felt cost-wise it made more sense for us to stay on that side of the world rather than coming all the way back to Australia and having to pay for flights all the way back here.
Yeah, well, it would have been a fraction of the cost to fly to Canada than it actually ended up costing us to get home.
So we booked flights and we were all set to go, and the day before we were meant to leave, we actually logged onto YouTube and seen the live broadcasting from the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, and he said that they were closing the border, and they were closing it. I think that we would have missed the closing time by maybe 12 hours with the current flight we had. We also found out that day that we were not going to be insured. So
that's right. That was a big thing.
Us girls were not going to be insured. The boys had a yearly plan from November, but us girls' yearly plan had been taken out in February, which meant that we weren't covered for COVID-19. And it was just too big of a risk to take to go somewhere and not be insured, because, worst case scenario, one of us gets sick and it costs everything that we have in medical expenses.
Canada's the kind of country that would probably accommodate us quite well, unlike some nations that wouldn't really look at you at all. But the cost was still going to escalate, half the price of a house. So it's just something astronomical for us, and we can't afford that. So.
Yeah, so May Sam has asked if we've ever been to the UK. Katie and Luke did a trip to the UK before we all started this for their honeymoon.
Years ago now.
Yeah, and we actually had one night in London transferring through to Athens. And
we all just thought we would be back. It's fine. On the tail end after France, we'll drop in and say hello, but it didn't.
We didn't get there. So I just had this conversation this morning that I really regret that we didn't extend that time we had in London before going through to Athens, just so that we had, somewhere else that we had explored. But, we are going to come back. We will be back. So it's not the end. But yeah, so the night that we were told that we couldn't go into Canada, we all kind of just looked at each other and had, honestly, a massive emotional breakdown. It had been 2 weeks of not really knowing what we were going to do, just feeling really unsure of our decisions, because every decision we had made had ended up backfiring on us. We had spent a lot of money on things that we didn't know if we were going to get the money back or not. So it was really heart-wrenching for us to make the decision, but after about an hour of conversation, we kind of decided that we had no other choice. We had to go back home, and we wanted to do it as soon as possible just so we could get out of the crazy. So we booked a flight that night to leave. I think it was about 10 p.m. we booked a flight, and the flight was leaving at 8 a.m. the next morning. So we had put the girls to bed, and they were thinking they were going to Canada the next day.
To see their cousins. They get really excited about seeing their cousins. They don't get much opportunity to spend with them. So.
And we had woken them up very early the next morning to inform them that we were going back to Australia.
You can imagine from a 4-year-old's perspective, none of it makes a lot of sense. Even just saying we're going back to Australia, for all they could have known, it was a bus trip down the road.
Yeah, so that's probably the bit that has been the hardest for us while we've been in isolation, is just trying to explain to the girls, you know, what's happening, why it's happening in a manner that they can really understand. They still are so concerned that they're missing Disneyland, because that was the thing that they, you know, visiting their cousins and going to Disneyland all together was a thing that was their highlight. It was actually the one way that before this all started, we were able to really convince them to sell everything that was important to them, their toys and all that kind of stuff, was that we were going to Disneyland. So they are heartbroken. And I actually had Millie come in to me this morning while I was getting ready and tell me that she was really, really sad, and that she wanted to know when COVID-19 would be done, so that we can get back out there and we can start traveling and living what is normal to us. So
I'm sure a lot of parents can probably attest to this, but before being a parent, I wasn't aware of a 4-year-old's grasp on things. And these girls have, as much as there's a lot of concepts, you know, i.e. the time it takes to travel from Greece to Australia that they can't wrap their head around, they do know what's going on, and they're well aware of like how things aren't normal at the moment. And having them understand that or helping them through that is, you know, it's probably one of the biggest stresses we're going through currently, right?
Yeah, it's definitely tough for them, because I know all around the world this situation is completely different in other countries, but for us here in Australia, we're just starting to come out of lockdown. They're lightening up the load a little bit on us, but the girls still can't go to parks. We can't leave the house with all 6 of us, because it's, you know, two adults and children at a time.
It's just a red flag.
So it's, for them, it's not normal lifestyle. And there's no space for us to give them that normal, what they see as normal at the moment. So, you know, we're trying our best to, you know, as everyone is, I'm sure everyone is struggling in this situation.
Yeah, we're not alone. Like, we might be going on about it, but it's obviously not us alone. There's plenty of people out there going through the same experience and having the same tribulations during this odd time.
Yeah, so obviously it's a lot more intense in other parts of the world than it is here in Australia. We've been really lucky to kind of keep it under control and not have such a dramatic impact like other countries have had. And I guess that's why it kind of, you know, we had a discussion the other day that if we were in a country where there was that dramatic impact, we would kind of have more understanding or more want to stay inside. But when you know that, you know, outside there's currently, I think, only 18 active cases in Queensland at the moment. So when you say that and then you go, well, I've got to stay inside today, but, you know, the risk outside is not that
super
great.
low, right?
It's hard to convince yourself to stay inside. So it was hard for us. The 14 days we had to stay inside and we were isolated was super difficult. We were seeing family through glass windows.
It was a super odd experience to look at my mum through a window and not be able to give her a hug or even really communicate properly, because you yell through a window and you only catch half of what's being said anyway.
Yeah, and these are people that we hadn't seen for, you know, over 5 months. So it was, you know, after feeling so stressed and upset at, you know, what had happened, we kind of just wanted our mummies and we couldn't. So it was quite difficult, but we've been at home now for 2 months in total.
Yeah, well, it's 2 months in a few days.
In a couple of days. So we've been at home for 2 months and we're kind of getting to the point that we're really wanting to know what the future looks like for us.
For sanity. Like, we've obviously fell apart at different points during this process. I'm sure that most families understand exactly what I'm saying. But part of us getting a grasp on what comes next or, you know, I mean, actually even getting a grasp on the present moment is about understanding what's next. So essentially that's what we wanted to run through with you guys. We're hoping that some of you might have some ideas or some direction or look, I don't know. I don't really mind what you guys want to bring up during this process, but we're hoping that you guys are quite active during it rather than us.
We kind of want to know what's happening around the world as well, because, you know, news we only get so much, so we kind of want to know firsthand of what it's like in your own country so that we can make a educated choice. The one thing that we do have to point out is that we did decide to do our full-time travel at this point is because the girls are under school age here in Australia, and we really wanted to get this traveling in before having to send them to school and start that, that education system in a typical sense.
So 2021 would have been the year that the girls pretty much had to, according to sort of legislation or rules or whatever, get involved in primary school, the first year of primary school here in New South Wales or Australia. And we wanted to sort of polish off that trip, most of it, maybe even all of it, before that had happened, so that the girls weren't going to be disadvantaged in the process.
So now we're at a point where we're having to look into their schooling and what that looks like and how we're going to make that a reality, like still be able to travel but educate them at the same time. We've done a little bit of research into distance education, but you do have to be traveling at the time that school is on for that to apply. So unfortunately we can't start them in that now. But
also the rules with the distance education means that we actually have to be traveling under the current circumstances. We're not actually traveling, so we wouldn't be able to apply for it in this moment anyway.
Yeah, so hi Angela, welcome to our chat. Thanks for just joining.
Don't forget Paula. She said hi there too.
And Paula, thanks for the advice on what's happening in Brazil. We do know that things are starting to pick up a little bit there in regards to more and more people getting sick, and we obviously have such a massive amount of friends and family that are in Brazil, so
I don't know if it's too personal, Paula, but I did want to say our heart goes out to you having a new baby and having to stay inside. I'm sure that it's new level kind of stressful for you guys.
It's tough, yeah.
It's tough with 4-year-olds, but I can't imagine having Millie as a 6-month-old, right?
So so we know that it's definitely tough out there, especially in those countries that are really affected, and it makes it 10 times harder if the leader of your country is not someone that is really working in what you think is a way that needs to happen. So what we were discussing is the girls' schooling. So if anyone has any advice, Katie read an article today about something that you can get a child exempt from their first year of school if the Department of Education feels like they are, I guess, enough on the ball to be able to miss that first year of school.
At the end of the day, I think our plan is going to keep them out of institutional side of schooling. As far as turning up during the day for maybe another 12 months, we're pretty comfortable in the thought that we might be able to deliver some education to them. We were amazed, and I don't know, I thought it was the cutest thing, and it blew my mind that, we went to places like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Athens in Greece, the islands in Greece. And every step along the way, the girls grasped things like hello and thank you in other languages. Yeah. We were talking about this yesterday, and I can't remember any of them, but randomly here in Australia, we'll walk into Coles or we'll walk out of a shop, and then they'll say, thank you in Thai. And it's cute as hell, but it's amazing. And it just shows me that the education that they might be getting in a school right now might not be as valuable as visiting other cultures and getting to know other destinations and stuff, right?
And I think that there's definitely things that the girls have had their eyes open to at such a young age. We had multiple discussions about children that were begging and why were they begging, and we live in such a privileged country that it's so important for our kids to really realize how lucky we are, and that there's other countries in the world that just don't have it as lucky as us, and we need to do what we can to support those people as well. So we were always...
It was a big eye-opener, even for us. I mean, we've travelled a little bit previously and you see some of the disadvantaged people in even countries like Canada, but you don't normally see that here. I think we're seeing a little bit more of it now, maybe certain circumstances, i.e. mental illnesses on the rise, but we don't really see that here. As Amylee said, we're super privileged here. We're super fortunate to be born into this country, and I know people on the internet in different places will talk about the country lottery, and we definitely won on that front. In saying that, coming home was the last thing we wanted to do.
It really was a bit of a defeat for us, I think, because we had put so much into that was our future, and you know, as a lot of people are feeling right now, when that's taken away from you, it's a little bit of grief that you go through to
you can tell just from our tone that we're not letting go, we're not finished, but we just don't know exactly where that's going to take us.
So that moves on to why we did a live today and why we brought all you guys along for the ride.
I did want to say hello to WDW Bound.
Thanks
for joining.
So we have two options, and honestly we're probably leaning more towards one than the other because it's something that we can put into motion a little bit earlier than the other. But the first option was for anyone that really knows us, the bit that kind of started this whole thing was a road trip around America, and that was, you know, our whole idea started off that we would just go to America and road trip America and spend 6 months there and then come back home to our normal life.
We wanted to do up a schoolie or just do the van life thing, you know, something really super cool and unique.
And I think that, you know, for some reason, it just ended up being like, why stop there? Why not do the whole world? So this is, it's something that we have had a real passion for, and I'm not sure any of us are really willing to let it go. So our first option is to hang out here until America is open and safe, and we can travel there and continue our
in saying
plan.
America is open and safe, it might be more like we'd head to Canada and see family, see Melissa, which is Amylee's sister, and then work from there. Brazil is definitely on the cards.
Brazil is on the cards. We had a discussion that Brazil is a must. So no matter what we do, that Brazil is still in the picture. We will all be going to visit family there.
We actually had it teed up with Thiago's mother that a school over there would probably take the girls on for at least a month, maybe a little bit longer. And we were super excited about that. Obviously, Sophie's family is Brazilian and they speak Portuguese. And I would love to know that Millie can speak Portuguese a little bit better than she does. Trust me, they know some words. They must. Thiago is obligated to teach them. So we had really big plans for Brazil, and Matt, we're coming. We're on our way.
Yeah, we're still, no matter what, we are still going to Brazil, South America, once this is all calmed down. Our concern is just, if we were to do that, if we were to resume our plans as we had planned once this was all over, we don't really know when that is. There's speculation that it might not be for another year or another 2 years until Australia opens its borders and other international countries open their borders. And
it's
the
also
question
a
is,
good question for you guys to answer. I'm not sure if it's the exact same one Amylee was about to pose, but if they open the borders, do we travel now, or do we wait until they've got some sort of solution to the COVID-19?
Yeah. So it was a big question for us, is that, like, as soon as they open the borders, would we start moving straight away, or would we wait a couple of months to see the reaction to what was going to happen? Because obviously when people start moving again, things might go back, cases might become higher. We don't know how insurance is going to work in regards to covering it. So there was so many what ifs, so many, how long is it going to take? What would we do? Like, if it was a year, what would we do in the meantime? Because we're currently located in my parents' house, and they are living in a caravan at my grandparents' house. So this is not a long, full-term solution for us. And we kind of decided, as much as we desperately want to get back to America and Canada and see more of the places we've fallen in love with, it doesn't seem like it's something we can do. It just doesn't seem like we can wait around for, you know, an infinite amount of time and until everything calms down and we can start
both
traveling
Paula
again.
and Rod have said there that we should wait until a vaccine. The concern is the timeline of that vaccine. It might be years before they do that.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, realistically, if we plan the next sort of, and visit Nick, of course. If we plan the next 6 to 12 months, from there we will have an idea. Because, you know, 12 months to 2 years from now, whether there's a vaccine or not, the government is going to have some sort of idea of the safest way to travel, and they're going to direct you on what to travel with, because they can't stop this. You know, they can't stop us going from A to B. They want us to go from A to B. I mean, at the end of the day, we live just south of the Gold Coast, and that place is ruled by tourism.
Yeah.
If people aren't flying into it, the people just don't have jobs. They don't have, you know, anything. There's nothing going on. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. But the point of today essentially is to discuss how we would do Australia.
Yeah. So our idea now is that we're going to see Australia. So originally our plan was to see the world and then come back and see Australia after we had done what we wanted to do in the rest of the world. But we've been pushed into a corner and now Australia has to become
number one.
What we're going to do. So we're a little bit lost because we honestly have not done any research in what we want to do in Australia or how long we want to go for.
The infrastructure is very different in Australia too. Like, we are a privileged country, but because it is such a vast nation and the population isn't so large, it does mean that things are quite expensive. You know, we might be fortunate enough to have good paying jobs when we are working, but it means that, you know, the average motel, and we're not talking anything with any sparkly bells or whistles or anything like that, is going to be about $100, $150 per night just for, you know, half of our family, just for 2 adults and a child sort of thing, right?
So we've done some research on, as Luke said, traveling it the way we were traveling Europe and Asia, and it just seems so expensive. It would be, you know, at the cheapest $200 a night for all 6 of us, up to anywhere to $500 a night.
We stayed in some great places over there for like $50 a night for the entire family. Like, that's amazing. Yeah,
so we've always had a budget when we've been traveling, and the first world countries, our budget was $200 a day. So for us to meet that, we can't be going out and buying a car, because we obviously don't have a vehicle anymore. So we can't be going out and buying a car and then paying for accommodation at the time. And Nick is on the point. This is what we have come up with, is that we need to buy, originally we thought we would buy a trailer camper, so a camper that we hook onto the back of, a caravan, thanks, a caravan. And that we would travel Australia with that, because that was the cheapest option for us, to buy a 6-seater vehicle and a caravan that we would take with us, and that we would pull into, you know, there's some free camping in Australia as well as national parks, which are generally pretty cheap, about $50 a night for us to camp in. And then we had a conversation with my grandparents, and my grandparents have been traveling Australia for the last 20 years. So they are very well, they've never traveled internationally, but they have travelled extensively in Australia, to the point that you would say something and they would have a story about that random little town in the middle of Australia.
They've done full circles of the country probably 2 to 3 times, but then, you know, closer to home, they've done trips all over New South Wales and Victoria and Queensland. So they're very, very well travelled as far as this nation is concerned. Yeah,
so they put to us that if we were going to use a vehicle and a caravan, how would we do 4-wheel driving? For anyone that is not familiar with Australia, the coast is quite easy to drive, but if you were to head into any part in the middle of Australia, it is all red dirt and 4-wheel driving. So you can't you can't see those locations if you're pulling a camper.
Even northern Australia, so you're talking like the Darwin area and that kind of region, up into the northern Western Australia, there'd be plenty of spaces where you wouldn't even get a sealed road. And then Katie was asking the other day, she said this term corrugated dirt road. If you guys Google that, you'll see that the road is just, it's managed and that's how it's made, but because it's corrugated, there's little bumps everywhere, and you know, if you've got the wrong type of vehicle, it would just rattle apart. Yeah,
exactly. So we kind of, and the second point that my grandparents put towards us is that there are roads in Australia that act as wind tunnels. So if you're carrying a camper van, you're going to end up with a camper van on the other side of the car because the wind is just going to push it off the road. So yeah.
So Nick has just made another comment, and it's part of what we want from you guys. We want a little bit of feedback on what you think we should do, because basically there is a thought we might buy a bus, kit it out, and look, we're very, very dedicated to having the 6 of us in one vehicle.
Yeah.
It makes our trips so much more fun having 6 people. But then there's other things, you know, having 2 vehicles is an overhead that we probably can't afford, a few things like that. I guess the thing that I was going to say there, my dad just mentioned Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but it's a drag queen movie that was produced here in Australia. And look, maybe I can promise I'll put on a frock if we get the bus up and running. Yeah. We'll head over to Broken Hill or something, right?
So the idea is we actually haven't done too much research in this, because it is something that we have kind of thought of in the last couple of days, honestly, is really committed to this plan, rather than we were all kept on going back to America and wanting to do that. So
because if we throw money at this idea, it could can the concept of flying and doing the same thing in America. But we're banking on the fact and hoping the fact that we might be able to get through this and then get ourselves there as well. But, you know, there's a money and a timeline kind of concept and a lot of things to consider.
So the question for you guys is, how do we do it? What does it look like? Like Nick mentioned a bus, but obviously a bus has a lot of expense in it. And we were thinking possibly something like a coaster, which is a smaller size bus, but then how do you fit all 6 of us sleeping in a coaster?
So I don't know how many of you are watching this chat over here. We've got Katie, my wife, answering the chat, and she has just said she's going to hold me to wearing a frock. So it could be a video that you all witness at one point.
Luke, Priscilla in
high heels and a dress.
So
anyway, sorry.
So that's kind of where we're at, is how are we going to do it? And where are we going to visit? We know that we want to take our time while we're traveling, and our concept.
We have to take our time with the girls,
Yeah. So our concept. She has the best Insta post in mind. So our concept is that this would allow us to, for anyone that's not Australian or not in Australia. At the moment, all of our state borders are shut to each other. We're in New South Wales, but we do sit right on the border. We're about 5 minutes away from Queensland, which makes it very difficult for us.
It has been an issue for us. When we first discussed having this chat with you guys, we were talking about, and look, Nick and a few of people like my old man, which is Rod, would understand exactly what we're explaining. But for us, we live and breathe in Queensland, and what I mean by that is, you know, if we need to go to the shops to get anything, we're not driving to a New South Wales shopping centre. Most of the time we're heading to a Queensland shopping centre, so they shut the borders on us, and it really limits our lifestyle at the moment, right?
Exactly. So our idea is that we would be able to, if we were to do this, we would be able to travel within our own state, which Australia has released stages in which they will open things. So this weekend, New South Wales is meant to be opening. You're allowed up to 10 people in your house, and they'll open some bars and some restaurants and allow maximum of 10 people in a restaurant at a time. And the next stage is meant to be travel within your own state. So they'll open up campgrounds and those kind of facilities for people to go and camp. So our idea is that we would do New South Wales, and then by the time we've done New South Wales, we'd be able to hopefully move into other states by that time.
In my mind, I imagine we would be somewhere near the South Australian border or the Victorian border and ready to cross as soon as they were open, right?
Yeah, so Rod has a point, and Rod, if you're happy to drive for us, then you know we're happy to take you along for the ride. But I can't guarantee a bed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but
you'll be sleeping in the driver's seat with your hands on the steering wheel.
Rod is right. In Australia, you need to have what they call a light rig license to be able to drive a minibus in Australia, and me and Katie did some research on that last night, and to be able to get a light rigid license is actually $1,000 per person. So it's a massive expense for us to commit to. Thinking hot rod. Yeah, so it's a massive commitment for us to stick to, but I think that's kind of where we're going to end up.
So, I mean, would you guys like to see us convert a bus? Do you think we should just buy a bus that is pre-done? Obviously, there's always going to be some work if we're going to try to squeeze the 6 of us into a bus. The coaster, I think, is the smallest we can go. Look, I'm just asking the question. If you guys don't have an answer now and you come back to it and post comments later, that'd be great too. We just feel like you guys could give us a little bit of direction.
Yeah, because obviously the channel that we have created is something that's a passion of ours, and we don't want it to fail. We want to keep you guys entertained and up to date in what we're doing. So as Luke said, do we buy a bus? Do we turn our channel into something that is, this is how we have refurbed our bus, and you're now coming with us around Australia rather than around the world.
So Nick's all for me building it. He's commenting about, not me, sorry, us. But I was going to say, has anyone seen me use tools? Like, it's not always the most successful thing.
He's just not...
Measure twice, cut once is not a thing. It's measure once if you're lucky, and then we might cut 3 times.
I've seen this guy electrocute himself before because he decided to do rewiring in a light switch and forgot to turn the PowerPoint off. So it's definitely... on the cards, because it's going to be the cheapest way for us to do it, but we are very hesitant in the fact that none of us are skilled tradesmen, and we don't really know any skilled tradesmen. So if anyone is a skilled tradesman and wants to help us out, then
we can pay in like love hugs, some kisses, and maybe food.
Yeah,
that's about it.
So I do agree with Rod that a coaster is going to be quite tight for us, and our thought is probably that we would build it in a way that you would have your 6 seats for all of us to travel in, and then a couple and the girls would be inside the bus, and that we would have some kind of annex that would come off the side of the bus that the other couple would stay in. So I'm not sure how we would end up getting all 6 of us in the bus if we needed to do that, but our idea at the moment is that we would have a separate annex section for one of the couples. Yeah, I mean, Nick and Rod, if you want to build the bus, then come on over and build the bus.
That's right, Nick's got to fly from Canada to get it done, but anyway.
Yeah. But it may, if we pay for you to come from Canada and spend a month or 2 here with us, it might be cheaper than fixing all of Luke's mistakes.
Calm down, Jesus. I don't think Nick's coming over, guys. He's got a new baby on the way, so congratulations, Nick and Jen.
Yeah. So the other thing is that we did have a think that if we were to build a vehicle and it was smack bang on what we wanted, that possibly we could get it over to New Zealand as well once they started opening up, and travel around New Zealand once we were done.
Rumour has it New Zealand and Australia are going to create some sort of travel bubble to allow us to journey between the 2 destinations, which would be really cool, because I have been to New Zealand with mine and Nick's best mate Natty, and that was one of my all-time favourite trips. New Zealand is brilliant. It's got some great locations, and it's made for the drive. So it's something that we would love to do, and I think getting a perfect bus is the priority. So
yeah, exactly. So if any of you have traveled long term or short term, or have any tips or tricks or anything, like if you love camping, if you love holidaying, I know there's a few of you that are from America, so if you've road tripped America and you have any advice on, the necessities that we need to be able to live full time in a van, because this is obviously it's completely new to us. How to deal with this guy in a small space, guys, if you have any tips. So any advice that you guys have, we definitely are really eager, and you can contact us via our Instagram page.
That's always monitored by Katie. If you've got something a little bit longer to write, there's always tinytravel2@gmail.com.
Yeah, so contact us and let us know what you think, how we can do it, what you guys actually want to see. Do you want to see us going around Australia? Do you want to see us converting some kind of vehicle into our new home?
It sounds like a few people there are keen to watch us do the bus, and we're going to contemplate that over the next few days. So be active in letting us know.
WDW just said that she lives in the south of America, but she's not the girl for camping. So that's okay though, because maybe when we get to America finally, you'll be able to give us some
And
advice.
To be brutally honest, I'm not the girl for camping either.
I grew up camping. My dad is a massive camper, and it was the only kind of holidays we ever did. So, me and Katie are probably okay with camping, but Luke and Tiago, they're a little bit, they're I don't know how they're going to go, how they're going to survive camping full time. So, we'll see.
It's probably part of the fun, and maybe it'll get you guys a bit involved. So.
And Katie was telling me the other day that she's been so hesitant because she's petrified of snakes, and she knows that when you camp, you'll come across a snake. So
don't tell Tiago that there's spiders in Australia.
So that'll be interesting. But we definitely want your advice. And until that happens, until we find ourselves a vehicle to convert, we definitely want to be he hasn't been camping in 20 years. Angela!
I'm probably the same. I don't know. You'd have to ask my dad. Last time I went camping, I think I was probably 10. So
yeah,
and I'm only 20 now, so it's only been 10 years.
I think everyone wants to, when you go traveling now, you want to stay in your cozy hotel room with your bathtub, and
Me and Katie have always been drawn to the city, so that's another reason why we don't really do the camp thing, because if you want to see Sydney or Brisbane or Gold Coast is one place, but we live here. You're not going to camp in the middle of the city in most cases. You're going to stay in a hotel room and then Uber to the local eating district or whatever you're sort of doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Katie's just said, is anyone interested in coming vehicle shopping with us? If you are local, come along with us, or even if you know of a van in Sydney that you think will work for us, let us know, because we 100%, we will drive to go and see it. So
local or not, that's exactly right. For all we know, Nick has a friend over here that has something to offer. But my point is, just if you find something you think might be applicable, definitely tell us about it.
Yeah. So until then, we want to keep this channel going, and we are trying to release a video once a week. And I think that we will do a few more lives, because this was fun. It was fun having a chat.
I've had fun with it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, so if there's topics that you want to hear about, we've obviously done Southeast Asia quite in depth. If there's anything you guys want to know about any of the countries we've been to previously, let us know and we'll do a live on that. But until then, we're going to release a few videos. Some of them will be on topic based on the countries we've been to, and some of them will be a little bit off topic, like our Easter video. If you haven't checked it out, check it out, because that one's based all on food, which we can't do all the time, because otherwise we won't fit in a bus. But keep tuned, stay tuned.
So from here, guys, I mean, if you have just stumbled across the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you are subscribed, make sure you hit the bell. The bell is very vital. Even the other day when I was testing out the live process, my dad was sitting there logging on every single time because he kept receiving bells. So look, if you received 1 billion emails over the last 3 days, I apologize.
Yeah.
That was trial and error.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, comment on this video as it's sitting there. Keep following us. We're going to try to put together some stuff that you guys enjoy, but then also the big part of this for us is living our life, right? So we're trying to develop a life that makes sense, that fits with us and makes us happy, safe, secure. Same with the 4 and 5 year olds back here. It is about them. I'll call them in a second to say goodbye to you guys. We just want a lot of help and support and you know, advice, because we're a little bit clueless about everything, and I think that's part of the reason we wanted to do it, is to throw caution to the wind, learn some lessons, develop personally as people, as well as, you know, developing little kids that are resilient and super switched on. So
yeah, as Luke said, we're always keen for advice and support. The whole reason we created this channel, why we did this, was to have information from all over the world. So we rely on you guys giving that to us. Luke's just gone to get the girls so that they can say goodbye to you, because we know that they're the drawing card for our channel.
Well,
but it shouldn't be too long. Yeah, so so say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
That's for Gabby.
So Nick just said about TikTok. We do actually have a TikTok channel, and there are a few funny videos of Chiago being caught in his prime. So if anyone hasn't checked it out yet, go and check it out. Everyone's saying goodbye to you.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
And we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Really?